Well, hello and welcome, dear listeners and viewers right across the globe. You are tuned into the inaugural episode of our podcast. My name is Evan Sijaka and I come from the Commonwealth Correspondents. And I am very much excited to be your host for this amazing conversation that we're going to have today. So today marks the launch of an incredible, exciting partnership. This podcast is an initiative brought together by the Commonwealth Journalists Association and the Commonwealth Correspondent Network, popularly known as the CCN. Maybe just to give a bit of context, why this collaboration matters so much right now, the CJAS stands as the leading professional association promoting quality journalism, media freedom, and freedom of expression across the 56 nations of the Commonwealth. Okay, for decades, the CJA has been at the forefront of keeping media freedom in check, championing the safety of reporters, and even pioneering the Commonwealth media principles. And these standards serve as a very good blueprint for journalists, lawyers, and even policymakers to ensure that the press remains free, independent, and of course, very much responsible. But again, a free press also requires a vibrant future. That is where the Commonwealth Correspondents Network comes in. So the network is a dynamic, fast-growing space that brings together the next generation of young and aspiring journalists, writers, and social commentators from diverse regions and cultures. By pairing the institutional weight and experience, the CJA, with the neuro energy, innovation, and fresh perspective of the CCN, this podcast aims to bridge the gap between veteran insights and, of course, modern digital storytelling. So, based on all that, we're going to jump in and see what exactly we have in store. So over the next 40 to 45 minutes, we are going to address these exact realities. We look at how digital tools are rewriting the rules of investigative journalism, map out the current state of media freedom across different corners of the Commonwealth, and discuss the institutional and grassroots solidarity looks like in post-truth era. To do this justice, we are joined by extraordinary panelists of guests bridging from London, India, and of course, even Nigeria, ranging from veteran BBC correspondents to the digital pioneers running independent and boots on the ground news platform. Again, my name is Evan Sijaka. I come from the Commonwealth Correspondent. I'm a Kenyan citizen. I'm a journalist, a development advocate, and an inspiring global media personality. Thank you so much, and let's get into this together. So I'll welcome my colleagues, or rather my panelists, to actually introduce themselves.
My name is Chimobi Ameye. I'm the Commonwealth Correspondents Coordinator. I'm from the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a freelance journalist and a renewable energy expert based in Abuja, Nigeria.
I'm William Horsley. I'm in London. I was a BBC TV and radio correspondent for many years. And then my second career is essentially in watching, trying to develop the media policies, working with governments and many stakeholders, as well as representing the Commonwealth Journalists Association and the Association of European Journalists as well, to counter the attacks on the free press and freedom of expression around the world. So my motto effectively is to protect the truth. We must protect the truth tellers.
Hello, everybody. I am Shuchita. I'm a journalist based in India. I'm currently an environment journalist, and I delve into print and multimedia as well. And I'm also a media trainer, especially with the Solutions Journalism Network, in which I train journalists across the country into doing solution stories. And that is also something I'll discuss today.
Thank you so much for kind introductions, and you people are doing a very amazing job. So we shall jump into it, and just to see how the media landscape is growing, the information ecosystem keeps on evolving a lot. And now in this era, we are in the digital, or rather the new digital media era. And of course, a lot is happening with the involvement of social media, with the AI, and so much is happening. Looking at this through a global lens, modern digital tools give journalists incredible reach, but do they actually make it easier to tell untold stories, or do they just create more noise for journalists to fight through?
Well, the answer is that there is now an infinite range. There's a very low entry level to join the world conversation. And that's why I'm privileged to be with yourselves as the news creators from Africa, from India and elsewhere, who now make up a very substantial part of the ecosystem. The Reuters annual digital news report says that as much as 27% of world audiences look to what they call news creators and video content sharers as a main source of their news. So mainstream media are on the back foot, although they are, I think, the driving force still of the majority of major international coverage and stories, but they have major problems, especially the theft of their copyright and material and the over-influence of the tech brothers and in collusion very often with the powerful forces in government and business, which is squeezing out those who aim to tell the truth and also protect the communities and the ability of populations around the world to receive diverse and reliable information.
So I will answer this from the perspective of Nigeria, being a freelance journalist based in Nigeria, and how it has also affected my reporting and also the work I do. So I must say that it has not just changed how we report. I also believe that it has also decided on who gets to be part of the conversation, which for me is instrumental. So I will give you some specifics. So I think last year or 2 years ago, I published an article at yourcommonwealth.org where I analyzed the status of democracy and overall governance in West Africa, where I looked at the effects of coup d'etats, especially in the Sahel region, especially in the Francophone countries, and also what we are seeing even in some Anglophone countries. Just last year, there was a reported coup attempt in Nigeria, which was neutralized by the Nigerian military. So I looked at it holistically, but what made it interesting was the feedback that I received from especially the young people. And this wouldn't have been possible if not for what we're experiencing now in the digital world. So I noticed that it's now giving people opportunity to engage, to speak, especially the young people. And also remember that more than 60% of Nigerian population are people below or within the range of 18 to 25 years. So this is a very young population. And it gladdens my heart that people are now speaking up. So where you have different views, different opinion, and so there are good side of it and also bad side of it. I'm a believer of democracy, but interestingly, you see many young people that are saying that democracy has not worked, that they even want military government. So you have divided opinion because they believe that since 1999, when we returned to democracy, Nigeria has not developed, Nigeria has not made significant progress. They believe that democracy has failed entirely, and what they believe now is on something that will change the trend, the journey of the country. So it's dividing the country. But in a way, on the positive side, it's also good hearing both ways, hearing that people are now being energized as a result of digital development happening. If you go to X, for example, previously known as Twitter, you see how vibrant it is. You see the energy on how people are engaging on social issues.
Digital journalism and the growth of internet in India has really taken the media industry and content industry at large with storm. There are around 900 million internet users in India, and there are the access to internet and smartphones is everywhere. So there's a high penetration. So it's a plus in a lot of factors. When we talk about the diversity of the country, we have so many languages and we have so many dialects that earlier, when it was just print and TV, the access was limited, especially to the people who did not speak that dialect or speak that language. But now that has diversified, and there's more content to consume, and there's people are really showing interest in news like that. But at the same time, it is also leading to a lot of misinformation, because a lot of content that is being produced is not verified. So there are two sides to the same story, that on one hand it has changed the game altogether, and even the legacy media industries are struggling to cope up with the reach that a lot of influencers and content creators have gained in the last few years. While some of them are doing a fabulous job, there are also some who are, spreading misinformation deliberately. And WhatsApp has become one of the major outlets for news in India, because WhatsApp forwards have become so popular, and they are the leading reason behind the spread of disinformation in India. So I think both sides of the story apply in India, both positives and negatives. So it is a very, very tightrope to walk here.
Just brought up something that I think I would like Mr. William to address. Mr. William, having worked in mainstream media for quite some time, and now we are in the era of digital media, and trust has become a commodity, or rather, I don't want to call it a commodity, but it has become something that is in so much jeopardy, because now anyone can publish, anyone can write information, but we can't gauge the credibility of that. So how can we as journalists play a role to actually make sure that we still have trust?
I think that issue of how to protect the truth tellers is at the core of this, and what we need is an alliance. Which I think is beginning to form. I'm very impressed by the diversity of reporting that we hear from people like yourselves, and this does add and enrich. But meanwhile, you have news deserts in many places, and many of the government leaders themselves are creating this lack of trust. If you think about the disinformation flow, it actually comes from the top. If you look at the Trump's attempts to create the big lie about the 6th of January assault on the Capitol and the stealing of the election. If you look at Putin's manipulation of the state-controlled media with propaganda against Ukraine, softening up the world's population to prepare for the invasions of 2014 and 2022. For example, with the Russian trolls doing Putin's bidding by spreading false news about the crucifixion of a 3-year-old Ukrainian boy by the Ukrainian army, and then the cover-up of the invasion of Crimea by the collusion of the mainstream media in Russia, which went in and misreported what was going on so that it could be a fait accompli. This is what we're now presented with, and what's required is for the governments of the world to stand up to this.
And Ms. Shuchita, so your platform, Ground Tales, actually specifically hands for the untold and hard stories in rural India. Can you please take us behind the scenes of reset environment or health story where digital tools allowed you to bypass traditional gatekeepers and get that story out?
Yes, so I used to work with Ground Tales. It was a podcast platform that I had founded, but it's not really working anymore. Although it did allow me to talk to a lot of experts, especially when it came to the Forest Rights Act in India. It is an act that guarantees rights to the forest dwellers, the tribal communities, and the indigenous communities of India by providing them land titles to the native forests that they have been living in for centuries. So it's a very beautiful act to undo the historical injustice to them. And right now, the situation in India is that the act is being diluted because the acts around the Forest Rights Act, like the Biodiversity Act or the Wildlife Protection Act, or that govern the national parks, the protected areas, and the forests in a different kind of a way. So they are being amended, and the direct result is on the implication of the implementation of the Forest Rights Act, because then the indigenous communities are left nowhere, because once you declare it, so it's a very complicated, it's a very layered kind of a process, so I will not get into that. But yes, so having that digital first platform allowed me to talk to experts who were otherwise not really willing to share their views on the situation in any legacy media organization, also because they were not getting a platform to do that. So that a podcast with Mr. Tushar Dash, who is an expert, an independent expert on the Forest Rights Act, he highlighted several problems which were otherwise going underreported. So this was one of the major benefits of having the podcast platform. Other than that, even as a mobile journalism trainer myself, I have observed that areas that are really hard to get into with a camera, the mobile reporting or mobile journalism makes it a little more easy for reporters to access information that otherwise people will not speak to on camera. I mean, of course, consent is necessary, but when for example, I went to Jharkhand to report on coal mines and illegal mining of coal in certain areas. So it was a very risky situation to be in. And my camera person who was with me, he was told to keep his camera aside if he was going to the field. So because we were documenting something that was happening and it was illegal and we would otherwise not have gotten permission to record it, the phones came in handy for him to click pictures with, and those were the pictures that were then used. So yes, digital media has made it easy in certain ways for us to report on things, on accessibility to areas that otherwise we will not get access to. But at the same time, like I said, it is also given the phone in the hands of every second person, and now everything, can be taken out of proportion. So yes, I mean, absolutely. But in India right now, there are some amendments to some laws that are, and there's a huge curb on media freedom in the in the last 1 decade actually, which is making reporting, whether print, whether TV or digital, really hard for journalists. So just access to the internet and to digital tools is not enough when your voices are not being protected by law. So that is something that also needs a lot further discussion and more amendments to ensure that press freedom just is not just about access, it's also about our human rights as journalists, and also the ability and the permissions to go about doing our jobs as usual, which is very difficult in India at the moment.
Yes, there's no two ways about it, and I think it's something that I touched earlier, where I analyze the positive and the negative. But to press the point on the positive side, like remember when I made mention that it has now given many people access to come up with your opinion. If you look at where Nigeria and the region was 10 years ago, where information was information origin are mostly from the state media, and we know that state media are always biased. Where I remember back then when I was little, the only information that we have access to are mostly from the radio, which is being operated by the Nigerian Broadcasting Organization. And what they tell the public is usually what they want to tell the public, and you don't have any opinion. And again, what makes it worse is when we have a military junta in charge. It now complicates the matter, and coupled with not having that digital opportunity. So right now, I think, and I can say it with my full chest, that information is now very easy to access in Nigeria, because everybody have access to internet, everybody have access to Android, iOS phone device, everybody have access to Google, and it has now changed the space. But one side that we need to also take a closer look is there is still a bit of effort in fighting against the digital access. Right? We know that it's very common in Africa. Once you get close to election, the government they shut down internet access. Why are you shutting down the internet access? It doesn't make any sense because they don't want people to know what is happening. But thank God for access to VPN, which has now also given people access no matter what you do. So, but I think we need to have a balance here, because when we keep talking about the positive side, we need to have it balanced. One is that we've also seen the rise of misrepresentation, which I love when Shushita made mention of, where you see people misinterpreting information in outside space, which is basically because everybody have access. And I also believe there should be consequences, no matter what. Because once you bring fake news out, you have to be punished. Because fake news can lead to death, it can lead to division in the country, especially with what we see in Nigeria, for example, where it causes a lot of religious imbalance, where you have 50% Christian, 50% Muslim. So it can actually cause a lot of issues. But there is a saying that you cannot throw away the bathwater with the baby. In as much as you have this, I would consider them as little issues. We must still push for more access, no matter what. Also, to bring what Shushita made mention of, creating laws that will guide this access and the rights for journalists. Brilliant idea, but let's not forget that implementation is another issue. Like in Africa, in Nigeria, most times you have the laws very clear, very bright. You have everything that you have, but who is implementing it? Nobody. People are still journalists are being dragged, in some extreme cases, being killed, and nobody is doing anything. So it's not being implemented. Also, to go back to Commonwealth, for example, I know what happened in Samoa Island with the declaration and the acceptance by the heads of state. What has been done since then? I don't think anything has been done. If something has been done, it's little. A journalist was killed back then in 2020, and it was established that this is what happened last month in Nigeria. There has been no statement from the Commonwealth. There has been no punishment on the Nigerian government. So where is the implementation? So in as much as we are pushing for the right laws, we also have to push for full implementation. Otherwise, we are still being at one place without making any progress.
I'd like to chip in there, if I may, to back up what Chimobi has been saying, because as you know, the Commonwealth journalists were at the heart of pushing through a set of principles to defend the media, and together with the rule of law through the latest Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2 years ago. And as Chimobi was saying, the institution appears to have turned a deaf ear and a blind eye to the issue ever since. And if the Commonwealth is going to allow itself to become a shield for the dictators and tyrants, rather than, as it claims, a champion of democracy and the rights of individuals, then this must be challenged, and I think it is being challenged. So the other thing which the CJA was involved with the Commonwealth lawyers and parliamentarians actually was the publication just last year of Who Controls the Narrative, an examination of the legal frameworks in all the Commonwealth countries. And it's no surprise, but we discovered that the 56 Commonwealth countries, about 3/4 or more still can use or have on their books, and sometimes use, these criminal laws which make it an offense, a criminal offense, on defamation, on sedition, and on blasphemy. And this is massively misused. I mean, in India, since Modi came to power, at least 16,000 cases of sedition charges against dissenters, opponents of all kinds, have been logged. And we've logged how, for example, when these non-mainstream media actors, for example, Gauri Lankesh, who was defending local communities, ethnic communities in India, she was shot, and she'd been reporting on police abuses and so on, and there's still no prosecutions, or no convictions of people for that crime. So the Commonwealth is guilty of allowing 96% rate of impunity in cases of killings of journalists in Commonwealth countries?
If I may, sorry, there is a good example, like Martin said, some positive examples of a digital first media. So there's a digital first media organization called Citizen Matters, and they are primarily a citizen journalism platform, and they played a very good role during the COVID times to bust misinformation and disinformation that was being circulated on WhatsApp. And they still do a lot of good journalism, and one of their journalists also recently won an award for his story. So the citizens are also, and I got the opportunity to also interact with them during a solutions journalism training, because they were all very keen on sharing their stories, because they are also, some of them are activists, and they have done some positive things in their own communities, but they were not being reported. So yes, digital first has really changed the game, and it has also led to the creation of a lot of independent newsrooms in India, like Scroll, like the Reporters Collective, like the Print, which it is named the Print, but it is a digital only platform. So yes, I mean, independent media has it also saw a boom when digital platforms became widely accessible, and websites did a tremendous job at reporting. But right now, because like William said, press freedom in India is a major concern, and India ranks 157th on a 180 scale in the Reporters Without Borders press freedom index. And there have been several cases of over 10,000 cases of arrests under the UAPA Act, which is basically calling anything anti-national has become the norm here. And there are so many examples of great journalists like Paranjoy Gua Thakurta, Prabir Purkayeshta, Rana Ayub, etc. So there are FIRs, the first information reports, just because they dared report against the government. An organization called the Reporters Collective, it is an investigative journalism organization, and it was working as a non-profit, but its non-profit status was revoked by the income tax department, saying that journalism does not do any public good, so it cannot operate as a non-profit. And they have challenged the statement in court, and at the same time, to tighten the noose around journalists, there are amendments, I mean, quote unquote amendments to the Right to Information Act of India, that that is now actually being diluted, because right now the main focus is on privacy and protecting personal information under the digital. One second, I'm sorry, I'll just read out the name of the law. Okay. So there. Digital Data Protection Act. So this is a new act that was formed in 2023, and working in tandem with the RTI, it now actually curbs transparency, for which the right to information was actually made, so that power could be held accountable. But right now, everything is about personal information, and there are hardly any categorizations of what counts as personal information. So anything can be passed off as personal information if the person in power, or the government agency, the organization, or the individual, they can pass off anything as personal, and they can say that, okay, we do not want to share this. So there is the director, Venkatesh Nayak, of the Commonwealth Human Rights Foundation initiative. He has challenged this in court. Commonwealth Human Rights Association's director, Venkatesh Nayak, he has challenged this in court, and he has asked these new amendments to be redacted. So we'll see how it goes. But yes, both sides of the story, while it has given a boost to new platforms, the anti-accountability laws and pro-government propaganda is preventing the actual dissemination of news.
That are now the information system has changed so badly. And especially because of the anyone can publish, as Shujita had said, that nowadays even a second person As long as you are able to have a phone or a laptop, if you want to publish information, you can publish it. And to make matters worse, nowadays people can buy the verification marks, which initially used to be a form of trust. It used to be earned by journalists and even credible sources of information. But nowadays, anyone who can afford that blue verification mark, so anyone who can be able to pay for Twitter Blue, anyone who can be able to pay for Meta Verified, can actually have that verification mark and publish information. But subconsciously, people still believe that as long as you have that verification mark, you are a credible source of information, which has actually affected the whole information ecosystem. Which brings us to our next topic of disinformation and misinformation. And we would like to start with you, Chimaobi. Nigeria has seen intense information warfare, and I think especially around elections and other issues, of course. So, what is the most sophisticated form of digital manipulation you've had to debunk or navigate in your reporting, and how did it impact public trust?
I agree with you, especially from your intro, because what we've seen now is that everybody can be a journalist. Everybody can be a champion, in as much as the person have access to the boutique and also access to internet. So there must be a big barrier, and also in a way, I don't know, but there should be proper regulation. I'm bringing it back home to Nigeria, especially when we go to the polls during the election. We've come across situations where performance data or policy decisions are taken out of context. I think it's something that is very common here. And most times, this is also well packaged in ways that strongly favor a particular narrative. So it's subtle enough that it doesn't immediately look false, but when you look at it holistically, it shapes perception in a very powerful way. So let me leave it here, in as much as we are trying to keep it brief.
Thank you so much, Maubi. Yeah, that's impressive. So to Shuchita, in rural or underdeveloped communities, misinformation often spreads very fast through WhatsApp like WhatsApp, rather than public Twitter or X feeds. How do you counter rumors and fake news when it's happening in these private digital spaces?
Oh, actually, it is a very, very big challenge in India right now. And because of the just by the sheer quantity and numbers, it is really not possible to debunk everything, because there are language barriers, there are distance barriers, the physical distance barriers, language barriers, and also sometimes what has already been debunked in major cities or mainstream press, it uh, kind of reaches in rural areas pretty late, because I don't know how algorithms work, but there is some lag that I see when I see content that is trending in metro cities versus content that is trending in rural areas in India. Yes, what I have had to debunk are mostly related to political or environmental issues, because there are a lot of greenwashing exercises that are going on in India in the name of, uh, helping the environment or planting trees and etc. So a lot of journalists like me who are working in the environment domain, we do investigative stories based on the claims that are being put forward by the government, and then we go and check, and it's totally baseless. So those are the kinds of things that we debunk at a very regular basis. But other than that, in India, because disinformation, doctored videos, doctored content is being used to create a lot of communal disharmony, and especially a rift between the Hindu and the Muslim communities, especially these two. Uh, it kind of gets out of hand really very fast. And a lot there have been cases of lynching because there were misinformation saying that a certain person of a certain religion is carrying beef. So I don't know how it works. So, basically, there are Hindus who say that eating cows is forbidden in their religion, and it's not the same that applies to the Muslim community. So this has become a major point of contention between the two, and that creates a lot of communal disharmony. And there are fake cases saying that some XYZ person is carrying beef and that he must be lynched. And this disinformation has really fueled these kind of narratives, and there have been a number of deaths, at least 30 people who have been killed like that because of mob lynchings, either related to their religion or to beef, or there was a case a few years back where two men who were Indians and who were traveling to a different part of India. They were the disinformation spread, and it was said that they are child traffickers, and they were lynched to death. So the cases like these, where disinformation is tied to sentiments, really blows out of proportion very fast, and people just act in rage without verifying facts. So in those cases, fact checks really come much later after the damage has been done. So it is a big challenge that we are struggling with at the moment.
In that regard, I think we have had very amazing takes. And as we continue, rather as we approach the close of our podcast, we also like to see whether Mr. William, with his experience in journalism, maybe has also an example to add in that regard, as also he tells us about what he thinks about the future of journalism, considering that journalism has been evolving very fast. And me, as a person, I have a theory that journalism has evolved very fast, but the academic side of journalism has not been evolving, or rather has been evolving at a very slow rate. So, Mr. William, please tell us, give us an example of what you think, how you think about the misinformation, disinformation, and what you think about the future of journalism in that regard.
Well, I'd like to pick up on what Shuchita said about the dedication and the determination of a lot of younger journalists to live up to the standards of journalism. I think this is the key to resisting this tide where the tech platforms are distorting the world of information through their partisan algorithms, and then backed by this tide of torrent of abuse and threats, especially from the US president. And that has to be done by honest journalism. And I'm encouraged that in the Reuters Institute report, which I mentioned at the start, more than half of the people surveyed in, I think, 48 countries said that they still respect and want journalists to be impartial. That's to say, not simply to use their platforms as a tool to beat others or to silence others. So the algorithms and the role of governments backed by a conscientious fourth estate, I think, to fight back against the threat of a kind of Orwellian 1984 world is the challenge for us and for the Commonwealth in the times to come.
And with that, we have come to the close of this inaugural episode. I want to say a massive thank you to the incredible guests, that's William, Shuchita, and of course Chimaobi, who is our coordinator at the Commonwealth Correspondents Network, for sharing your time, your hard-earned insight, of course, which have been very, very substantial, and most importantly, your commitment to the truth telling under the pressure. Okay, so this podcast is just the beginning of our powerful collaboration, of course, between the CJA and the Correspondents Network. So a huge thank you to both the CJA and the Correspondents Network for making this dialogue possible, and for the ongoing work to defend media freedom and nurture the next generation of journalists across the Commonwealth. Yeah, until next time, keep questioning, keep investigating, and keep telling the stories that matter. Yes, my name is Evan Sijaka, and of course, goodbye for now.